Globalisation is making the rich world even richer, but billions are locked out. They're living on the edge between the rich world and the poor. They face tough choices if they want to join the party. Across most of the world, women are having to fight for their share of progress, but it's all too easy to fall behind. In the Horn of Africa, women fought a war to liberate their country. Now they must decide whether to liberate themselves. A bridal procession in rural Eritrea. Laws forbid child marriage, but in many villages, girls are still married in their early teens or younger. Women in Eritrea are often depicted as Africa's most liberated sisterhood. They fought on the front lines in the country's 30-year war of independence. But here in Eritrea's poor rural heartland, women's liberation is a war still being fought. And it's being fought most keenly in the hearts and minds of the women themselves, including the three we're about to meet. Once mere victims, they can now be sisters in a common struggle, if they choose. Helping them decide is former soldier Belenesh Soyum.
This was my best friend who was killed by the Ethiopians. They suspected her that she was collaborating the Eritrean Liberation Forces, and so they just killed her. At that time, I started thinking, why? I didn't know what was going on in Eritrea about the liberation forces, the movement and everything. So from that days onward, then I started to fight back.
It wasn't just Belenesh who joined the army. Tens of thousands of young women enlisted too. Many came from conservative families, Muslim and Christian. For the first time, they were equal partners with men.
There was no distinction between men and women. We used to work together in the kitchen, and we used to fight against our enemy together.
Development experts wonder if the war could be a precedent for the future.
Women in Eritrea have actively participated in the liberation struggle when we know that those women came from very traditional backgrounds. And one should ask why at one point in time those traditions were more or less set aside and liberated those women to go and fight. Asmara,
Eritrea's capital. Today, Belenesh works for the National Union of Eritrean Women, the female arm of the liberation movement. Much of what she fought for has come true. The country won its war for independence in 1991. New laws have been passed, granting women the right to vote, own land, and choose their own husband, not to mention work in any job they like. When viewed from the city, Eritrea appears to be a beacon for women's rights and a model for Africa. But travel into rural communities, as Belenesh does, and the picture changes. Gash Barka is a vast, drought-prone region bordering Sudan and Ethiopia. It's a rarely filmed corner of the world and one of the poorest. Poverty and the status of women here are closely connected.
The women who live here mostly are traditional. 85% of them depend on agriculture. So because of this, most of them are illiterate, they are unemployed, and they are very poor. They work in the field, but they don't own it. It is a man who owns it. So they don't decide on the production. Even the women themselves believe that the man can decide. They believe that girl child when she reaches 4th, 5th, or 7th grade is not relevant. So most of the time you find dropouts from school, or they got married. This is based on the attitudes they have.
This young girl tells Belenesh she was a child bride at the age of 12. Now 14, she has an 18-month baby.
In the Eritrean constitution, it says a girl and a boy has to get married above 18. Below 18 is unconstitutional. It's not legal, but this is against the law again.
Belenesh asks the young girl why she married so young.
My mother told me to get married.
Ancient practices that can be harmful to women date back centuries. So far back that women themselves have trouble seeing their lives any other way. Layla Adam, the first of our 3 sisters, is a 22-year-old mother of 2 girls. Belenesh's Women's Union led the fight to outlaw circumcision and female genital mutilation. But Layla doesn't hesitate to tell Belenesh that her 3-year-old daughter Etahal has been circumcised. It's good for her, she's saying.
Layla is explaining if a girl is circumcised, she becomes a well-developed girl. And on the other side, she can marry and she can have a husband. This is a secret behind the circumcision.
Soon, Layla's youngest daughter, Manal, will have her first birthday. Tradition dictates that she too must be circumcised. But this time, Layla has doubts.
I'm not sure what I will do. Circumcising girls is part of our tradition, but recently people have been warning us about the dangers of circumcision, and there is also government law against it.
Layla could face a 10-year prison sentence if she agrees to have her daughter circumcised. But so far, the law isn't widely enforced. According to the Women's Union, more than 9 out of 10 women in Muslim and Christian communities here are circumcised. That's despite all the dangers known to experts back in the city.
The child in our country, the child is circumcised at the age below 1 year. So it is very difficult even to recognize which part to cut or which part not to cut. And the circumcisers are also very old people who may not be able to identify that part they want to cut. Sometimes there are a lot of problems, a lot of bleeding, because it's done with unsterile things. There is infection. Sometimes children die due to circumcision.
The grim facts are now being passed along at workshops like this one, organised by the Women's Union. It's part of a campaign of persuasion to convince people of the need for change. Belenesh is hoping Layla will attend the next session. In the meantime, Layla has a big decision to make. Half an hour down the road is the village of Mogola. Here, Belenesh meets another woman faced with a difficult choice between the old ways and the new. Amina Aserawed, our second sister, is a 35-year-old mother of 6. She's just discovered she's pregnant again. She shows Belenesh the room where all her children have been born, so far.
I gave birth to all my children in this bed. All 6 were born here. I've never gone to a hospital, and I've never had any problems.
Amina has been lucky. Nationally, there's about a 1 in 130 chance of women dying when they give birth. In the countryside, it's much higher. Not surprising when you hear what home birth can mean.
What Amina is saying is, for me, so far, I didn't get any problems. But we fear of so many things. One is the woman, the traditional birth attendants. They use no gloves at all. They don't use the detergents for cleaning, and they use birthing equipment for more than one woman. That means we are liable to be affected by HIV AIDS.
But Amina has a choice. In some villages like hers, medically trained midwives are now offering services to pregnant women in their homes. There's even a small hospital with a maternity ward and trained obstetric staff. Evoselam Zeroy is a midwife and trainer.
The midwives we train help to identify women who might have problems, and they bring them to the hospital. But many women refuse to come to the hospital, and in 90% of cases, it's due to traditions and beliefs.
Choosing between this and a home birth may seem simple. But for Amina, it's an agonizing decision. At first, her reasons sound a little unconvincing.
The tradition is for women to give birth at home and stay inside for 4 months. The wind and dust can harm a baby, even kill it. At the hospital, they tell you to leave after 2 days.
Belenish wonders if there could be another reason.
If I go to hospital, they will unstitch me. But after the birth, they refuse to do the restitching.
The stitching is part of an ancient practice that makes home birth even more dangerous.
One of the type of circumcision is just showing all the labia minora or labia majora. So it is so narrow that the child cannot go out. So even the traditional birth attendants has to tear it. They have to cut it and when they cut it, it's not sterile. It is just crude things like a broken glass or something. So infection can happen again. Bleeding can happen again. So it is really a lifelong suffering.
Amina has had 6 kids at home and knows the dangers. But home birth does mean she can be restitched, as tradition demands. For her, it's a tough choice.
We have these beliefs in our culture, and I want to respect them. We are in the middle of this.
Away from the countryside, an unusual war memorial. Time for reflection on what could have been without war.
When I see this machineries, tanks, armored vehicles, and everything that is collected here, had this been used for the purpose of development of women, for example, it would have been the benefit not only for Eritrean women, but also for the women of Ethiopia and the women in the Horn of Africa.
The long war and continued border conflict with Ethiopia have had a devastating effect on Eritrea's economy. In the countryside, men left their families, never to return. Women died too, just not so many. So 4 out of 10 families in Gash Barka are now headed by women, and their priority is feeding their families.
It's really a war against poverty. That's what those women are doing every day. They're trying to fight poverty with their own maybe small means sometimes, and sometimes no means. But every morning that woman will get up, she will do everything possible within her capacity to push back poverty.
But what if feeding your kids provokes disapproval from your neighbours? Hawa Mahmoud Haj, our third sister, is 29. She supports 4 daughters on her own.
People here believe a woman should not go out and leave small children behind. But I have to support my family, which is why I go to the market every Tuesday. sell tea. Even so, my neighbours gossip.
What Hawa earns at the market is barely enough to feed her kids. But now she has an opportunity to grow food for her family. A government irrigation scheme captures water during the rainy season. It's financed by the UN's International Fund for Agricultural Development, or IFAD. It's turning more than 1,000 hectares of arid land into irrigated green fields. The potential is enormous. Sorghum and millet yields alone could quadruple. The challenge has been to find farmers to do the work.
There is about 10% of the economically active people that are serving in the army. And this is a heavy burden because these are 10% that is not there producing extra food, that is not there ploughing the field.
But there are thousands of women like Hawa, poor women who need to feed their children and find a way to earn an income.
To tackle this, we decided 30 to 40% of the land must be given to women.
Hawa's got herself on the list. She says a hectare would provide enough food for her family, and there'd be enough left over to sell in the local market.
It won't be easy. I would have 2 workloads, the house and the land. I can't be like a man who has a wife to take care of him.
But not being a man, Hawa is faced with a dilemma. In her culture, women aren't permitted to plough land. With the rainy season just 3 months away, Hawa has to decide, will she respect traditional practices or take the land? In her village, Layla too has yet to decide if she'll respect tradition. She's been invited to a workshop organised by the Women's Union to give local people more information on female genital mutilation. Belanish welcomes everyone, but so far, Layla's not here. At the last minute, Layla arrives. The war against FGM is still being fought, but it appears Belanish may have won this small battle. Layla's even convinced her father and other relatives to show up. The instructor asks the audience why they'd want girls to be circumcised. Layla's friend Miriam is one of the first to speak up.
Among the Nara people, if a baby girl is not circumcised, her rights are not respected. If she dies, she can't be buried with other women in the community. If she's not circumcised, she's alienated. And being alienated is the worst thing for a young girl.
This man raises another common belief.
In the Quran, it's written that a girl must be circumcised.
The instructor says it's not dictated in any religious texts.
What he's saying is, we are full with what God has given us, and we will not be full if we are cutting parts of our body. So what we are doing to our girl child is unjust.
But this man still wants to talk about the religious texts. Clearly, it's going to be a long haul.
If you start enforcing without convincing the population or the communities, it may go underground. It's not easy, to change behavior. It has been there for a long time, so you have to work for a long time so that people are convinced.
After the workshop, Layla returns home. A family lunch, a chance to talk over some of the issues. Layla's pleased her father turned up, but still, no decision.
It was important that my father and relatives were there. If they were to continue to attend such meetings, I'm sure their attitudes would be changed. As for me, I can't say. I can't make up my mind in just 3 hours.
Once again, it seems it's the women who have to liberate themselves.
I don't think it's the male It may have started that way, but I don't think now in Eritrea men are pushing for it. I have never heard a man refusing marriage because she is not circumcised. They wouldn't even know if she is circumcised or not. You wouldn't know. Yeah, you wouldn't know. So I don't think. It is a perception in women. You know, it's deeply rooted. They said, you know, they have a lot of attitudes toward this. So I think, I don't think we will have a problem in changing men. It's the woman we will have to work very hard on them.
In her village, Amina's still unsure where to deliver her baby. She's come to the new hospital for her first prenatal checkup. It's a chance to find out how midwives help circumcised women give birth.
When a pregnant woman comes for the first time, we explain that we will unstitch her for the delivery, and then we tell her about all the disadvantages of being restitched. We do the same thing with her husband.
When it's all over, we check in with Amina one last time to see how she feels about the hospital now.
The advantage of giving birth in the hospital is that the doctor closely watches you. And most important, the equipment is disinfected, and there's no risk of disease like HIV/AIDS. But still, I'm not sure.
Layla, in the meantime, gets ready for evening prayers. There's 5 months left before her youngest daughter's first birthday. It remains to be seen whether Layla's willing to defy tradition.
There are so many influences: neighbours, family members, my father and husband. Then there is our cultural beliefs. In my village, I don't know of any woman who is not circumcised.
But Manal could be the first, if the Women's Union has its way. Meantime, Hawa has been invited to see the hectare of land that could become hers. The man from the government has an offer that could help resolve her dilemma. Women aren't supposed to plough the land, but for the first year at least, the government will loan her money to pay for a man to plough it for her.
If I get land, I'm prepared to farm it. I'm ready to do whatever it takes for my children.
It's poverty that's making Hawa so determined, and increasingly, it's poverty that's fueling the women's liberation movement here.
Due to poverty, women are undereducated, women are suppressed by the community. They think women are always inferior to men, and they are not allowed to do things, you know. If that woman is educated and she's not dependent anymore, then she can say yes or no. You know, she can say, I'm not going to circumcise my child. No, I'm not going to have all this. So she can decide for herself.
The fight to end poverty and to liberate women may draw its greatest lessons from the war women fought 40 years earlier.
The evolution came from within. No one came and said to every family, you need to give us a daughter to go and fight. The women did it for themselves. And now they're doing something to help the women that stayed in the villages. And the message is the same. You cannot push a change. The change has to come from within.
Belenish is ready to leave Gash Barker. She's met 3 women, once victims, now she hopes her sisters in a common struggle. What does she believe? They'll decide.
Layla, I believe she will not circumcise her second daughter. And Amina, I'm not 100% that she's going to deliver in the health center. Maybe 65% will deliver in the health center, but 35% I'm not sure. And the third one, Hawa, She has a cultural pressure, but she will break away because she has to come out from poverty to send her children to school as well as to feed them. Traditional attitudes does not change within a day or a month or a year. It needs a lot of time to change it, to transform the woman to a better life.
It took Eritrean women and men 30 years to achieve independence for Eritrea. It may take as much time or more for women in these communities to liberate themselves from harmful ancient practices. In the meantime, fighters like Balenish continue to do battle on the new front line.